So hello everybody, thanks for coming back for the final installment. Hopefully it was high on your schedule for today to come and see the last part of what we're doing here. I made a point last class to say we should do some of the exercises. So some of you might have done Tai Chi or Qigong before, maybe you haven't, you have no idea what it is, maybe you did it and you didn't like it, whatever the case may be. I'm going to go through a little bit of kind of what we did last time, just a little review of a couple of the breathing exercises, and then hopefully show you a couple other things that can help you with balance and stability. So I really only have two goals that I wanted to cover today as far as going over the exercises, and there's handouts for all this too. And then we can review some of the stuff if anybody has questions. I'm not going to go through each slide again and say, let's review this. But I wanted to get to why it's important to have these kind of groups and these kind of connections, whether it's holistic health, Tai Chi, crochet, philosophy club, Spanish club, whatever, things that get you up and out of the house. I favor the physical ones with yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, so that's my area. So did we have any questions before we can get started here? Or everybody's good to roll? So if you remember last, I think we might have done it at both of the last class, I talked about the box breathing. We're going to do a variation of it today. You can sit and do it that way, or you can stand if you'd like. So the idea with the box, we have 4 sides to it, right? We're going to equate that into our back and our arms movement. So say I start at the bottom of the box, just like our square that we're talking about here. I'm going to pull my arms back, that's the bottom leg of the square. Then I go up towards my shoulders, like I'm holding a big beach ball, and then I bring my arms out in front. So I got 3 legs of the square so far, and then I come back down to the bottom. So that's our square shape as far as moving our arms, and then we're gonna make the breath coincide with that. So if I'm gonna breathe in, I'm gonna start right here, just like I'm pulling the beach ball in. Breathe in, that helps open up my lungs, my chest, my shoulders, all the way up, fill the lungs, come out, and breathe out. So there's gonna still be some pauses in there. Wherever my lungs and chest is most wide open, that's going to be the inhale. Here's the pause. Here's the exhale. So if you want, you can do it with your arms. You can do the arm movement. That'll help engage more of the muscles. If you're not using your arms, it's kind of like the basic exercise we just did where you're following the breath in that box shape. So if we're facing forward, pick up your big beach ball, pull it back towards your hips. That's your inhale. And you'll feel your chest and shoulders stretch, right? All the way up to here, shoulder high. Now as we reach out, let your chin drop and let your back round slightly. So those are the last parts of the box. Pull back, shoulders back, chin up slightly. That's good for our deep inhale. Big exhale, chin down, round your spine. So now we're actually deliberately opening up the lungs and the chest muscles so that we can breathe deeper. The shoulder movements, I'm doing a little bit faster, it's a good exercise for your shoulders and your spine with this arching of the spine and rounding of the spine. I think I touched upon that just a little bit last time. When we get the back to roll from being arched to rounded, and back and forth, it's a wave movement that helps get the cerebrospinal fluid moving. Usually that happens more so when we're asleep and we're horizontal and the body's totally relaxed. That fluid moves in the brain. There's a process, what's it called? It's not glycemic, it sounds like glycemic. Some glycemic process that is the cleansing of the brain with the cerebrospinal fluid. So anyway, here's the exercise. We got the box. Right? We're going to do it like 2 more times. Pull back, breathe in, fill up the lungs, and breathe out. And breathe in, and breathe out. All right? So then the next one we did was this heart shape, where we open up the lungs in a different direction, making a big Valentine heart shape, and then we push down. So it's kind of like a heart-shaped lollipop, with the Valentine heart on top of a stick. So everything starts with the fingertips at the top. Your head is up, your chin is up, the hands are up, and then we work our way down. Chin down, arms down, and breathe out. Everything is connected. So if I move my hands up and I tilt my head up, I can arch my lower back. Arms down, chin down, there's that roundedness of the spine again. So we're starting to get that wave movement. Shift your hips. Shift your hips forward. When you come up, you'll feel the weight on the ball of your foot. As you push down, bring your hips back, that shifts the weight to the heels. And your toes might even come off the ground a little bit. It's not necessary for that to happen. A little bit off is fine. Inhale to the ball of your foot. Exhale to your heels. So let's do 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So that little shifting of your hips and rocking on the ball of your foot to your heel is one of the first exercises that helps you to kind of build that relationship with your feet that I was talking about, that helps with your stability. So if that was somewhat easy and okay, we're ready to do the next thing. We're going to jump on top of this table, we're going to do jumping jacks and see who can do it without falling. Maybe not. Let's go with something that's a little bit safer, okay? So if we start with our feet together, I talked about this last time, the anatomical position. Let your hips bend, your knees slightly bend, and you can make like a little half circle, a little half arc. And then you shift from left with your hips to right, and then the center. It's kind of like you settled down to the center. If you feel your weight's on one side, you can feel that imbalance. So you go back and forth a little bit until you find your center, which is usually on your center line with your navel, your nose. Occasionally, if you have some kind of, where your body's out of whack, you might feel like your center of gravity's over here when it's not. So you kind of have to look in the mirror sometimes if you're doing it at home. So okay, here's our shoulder width apart. Center of gravity, sunk. What we're gonna do from here now is let the arms rise like they're floating. And you shift to the ball of your foot. And then the arms come down, they're sinking, you shift back towards your heels. And again, your toes don't need to come off the ground. I'm just giving you a visual if you can see how much I'm moving. So if this is light as a feather, so they float, these would be heavy like a brick. In your mind, nothing really changed. We didn't change the weight of our arms, but it's our perception. Light and then heavy. So I'm swaying forward like a flag moving and swaying back. So that gives us 2 directions. We have going forward and we have going back. But we also have up and down, right? So if we think of a compass has 5 directions. North, south, east, west, and the center. So this is our north and this is south. Okay, catch the beach ball again at your nose height with your thumb and your navel height with your pinky finger. So I'm holding the big beach ball. So now I shift my weight, I turn my spine gently, and the hands will switch, and I bring my hand up like I'm holding onto a ball. That was west. We come back to the center, we shift to the right, the hands switch, and it's just like I'm holding onto a ball. So that's east. Come back to the center. That's the spindle, the axis, the center point of the compass. So when I'm doing this, this is like 10 different exercises in one, what we're trying to accomplish. Some of you might feel the balance is awkward. Some of you might go like, oh, what are we doing with the hands? Maybe a few of you are going, when do I breathe? I'm holding my breath. So this will teach you how to do all of those things. So as I start to open up my lungs with my arms coming up, that's inhale. I'm somewhat closing my lungs when my arms come down, so that's exhale. Open the lungs, inhale, shift, squish, exhale. What am I squishing? I'm squishing the ball as I reach out. Inhale, back to the center, exhale and squish. Back to the center, inhale. I'm really open with my arms and lungs here, right? But there's a bit of a closing as I bring my arms down. Am I really closing my lungs? Am I compressing them a whole lot? No, it's not drastic. It might be a couple millimeters, maybe an inch or so. With this, there's something to be said when your hands are up and out that your lungs are more open. So it's like light exercise, but it's teaching you how to breathe and when to breathe. You don't want to breathe in deep when you're like this, huddled up, and it's just not conducive to taking deep breaths. But if I'm like this, the lungs are more receptive to take it in. So we have everything with exercise, with Tai Chi and yoga and even Pilates, and then weight training and swimming and that. There's different aspects. You have the physical aspect of being able to just kind of do it, coordination, balance, timing. You have a mental aspect of thinking about what you're doing. That guy in the pool looks like a shark. He's thinking about what he's doing. He has a wetsuit on, so he's thinking about staying warm, right? And then there's the awareness part, which some people would interpret that as the spiritual part. Awareness of who's in the room, how much space you have. It's a little bit chilly in here. It's the awareness of what's going on. So most exercise has all three of those, mind, body, and spirit aspects. Oftentimes people only focus on one. Putting one foot in front of the other, putting one arm out. Halfway across the pool, they're freezing. Or they, not aware that there's a bunch of kids in the pool. Like, what am I doing here? So back to this. Here's the physical part. Moving our body, if you want to do it at the same time. Shifting, okay. An awareness of what we're doing. It's actually my feet pushing my waist, and then my arms and hands come along for the ride. So that's more of a mental, cognitive process. Feet push, like the ball of my foot, waist shifts, arms come along for the ride. Back to the center, my feet are in the right spot, I sink my waist, my arms come along. So that's a bit more of awareness, but let's take it another step further. Let's get into some philosophy. This is pushing or poking, like a spear, poke, but my arms are still light. So metal is spear, or a spear is a metal, right? It's a metal spear. Pulling is wood, like a tree branch. You ever go hiking and you pull the tree branch and don't let go of that until I clear, and then the tree branch hits somebody. So metal, wood. The smooth shift is water, feet, waist, arms. It's very, very fluid, it's water. To shift to the other direction, it's opposite, it's the same thing, but it's opposite, so it's fire. Coming to the center, where you're most stable, most solid and grounded, would be earth. So this is the 5 elements. And this goes into traditional Chinese medicine, Taoism, Ayurveda. They all have some of these same principles. American indigenous Indians, South American indigenous Indians all have these same kind of concepts. Poke like a spear, pull like wood, flow like water, flow like a fire, ground like earth. So now you have 3 levels of thought. I'm thinking about my body movement. I don't feel stable, I gotta be careful. You're thinking about, where should my hands be? Nose and navel, and go this way like we're in a mirror. And then it's like, this is very fluid. Feet, waist, arms, there's a flow there. And then the other direction, flow. And then grounding. So you can relax, you can grab a seat, you can stand up if you want to. I'm gonna talk a little bit, see if there's questions, and then we'll move on to another one of these sets. So all of those elements, it's very philosophical, like, you got those things going on. Look at this, the counter, plastic. Plastic comes out of the earth, right? Everything comes out of the earth in one way or another. We have the air in the room, the air conditioning, that's air. Metal bases, it's everything. You get into chemistry, look at the periodic chart, it's like, okay, you got your gases, you got your metals, you got all the different things. The cultures have gotten very philosophical with trying to apply something from thousands of years ago, and now we look at it in the last couple hundred years as far as chemistry goes, but it's kind of what it is. Everything is made up of molecules and different things, right? So for us, in doing the exercises, it takes us out of that pool where it's kind of boring, or the treadmill, where people sometimes need their phone or ear things on, looking at their phone while they're running. It's very disconnected. You're doing exercise with some other distraction. It's no wonder why people fall off a treadmill occasionally. People do drown in pool. It's called putting your mind where you're at. And if you can do that when you exercise, whether it's weight training, Tai Chi, being in a sauna, put your mind where you're at for what you're doing, and you'll get the most benefit from it. It just so happens with Tai Chi and yoga, it's very much more of a mental type of discipline. So does anybody have any questions on this stuff so far? Yes? Putting your earbuds in? Yeah.
But I'll put headphones in. 45 minutes go by. It seems like less work.
I agree.
I'm thinking of what I'm doing. I get bored.
I get it. So for some people, that is the deal breaker. It's like, you know, if I listen to something, then at least I'm engaged and I'm doing that activity. So that's good. It's kind of like, I'm going to eat a salad once a week. You know, it's like, good, you're doing something. It's great. But there's like, well, if you eat salad 5 days a week, your digestive tract might be even, you know, better. But if you're putting salad dressing on it that's got all sugar, then your net gain again is negative, right? So it's always going to be a balance. If that gets you into the gym to do stuff, that's great. If you want to take it to another level, try to put all that thought, all that stuff out of your head and just focus on what you're doing. It's difficult. They crank up the music and you got people bumping into you and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I got all these distractions. So whatever gets you out, that's great, and do it. But there's always another level of refinement when you can do it. When we practice Tai Chi, like we just did this, I actually have background music that's very slow and it's got bells and chimes and stuff, and it's very relaxing. If I play it too loud, it's annoying, it's too much. It stimulates your nervous system too much. So there's, again, always gonna be that balance. If you look at my little chart here that you'll grab on the way out or halfway through the class, yin and yang, the yin and yang symbol, it's not absolute. It's not a perfect, you know, left and right, it's exactly opposite. There's that little dot in the other side, which means there's always another piece in the other. Like a male might have female traits, a female person might have masculine traits. There's always a gray area. It's not just gender, it's in all things. So any other questions on what we've done up until now? Because I wanted to show you something else that we can do standing. Preferably standing, you can do it sitting though too. I like to not make it absolute, exactly what we're talking about here. We're good? So if you would stand up again where you're at, or sit where you're at is comfortable, where you're comfortable, that's fine too. So here's my feet shoulder width apart again. So all this stuff is gonna start with our feet. That's your foundation. Feet, waist, arms. If we're a tree, we have roots. As long as the roots are solid, the trunk is gonna hang in there. The branches and the leaves, they will come and go with the seasons and the breeze and the storms, right? So anything with your arms, you can get away with doing it incorrectly and it's probably not gonna be a problem. You're not gonna injure yourself. On the other hand, if you're standing kind of like this and your knees are weird, your knees aren't really in line with your toes, you might start irritating your knees after a couple moments of doing this. So, toes straight, knees straight. Shift to the right like we just did. Turn this left hip. Comes from the hip. Turn it 45 degrees. Put the weight on it. My front foot now becomes light. It's called empty stance, or cat. Moonwalk? We're not gonna do a moonwalk. You see that airwalk thing they're doing? Where they show the kids and it looks like they're walking like a step in the air? We're not doing that. Okay, so I probably could. I haven't tried it though. So I do this shift, that gets me to here. So what this is accomplishing is this foot's light enough that I can go to the heel now. I go from my toes to my heel, and then I step out. So now I got one knee bent, one leg straight, and if you can go a little bit wider this way, these directions, then you'll have a little bit more stability. So again, we started here, toes on the line, feet shoulder width. All of this gets us to here. I got about 90% of the weight on my left leg. Go from the toes, you feel your toes and your ankle and your calf, to your heel. Now you feel a little stretch in your Achilles tendon in the calf. And then step out. If you can get to about 2 feet or one of these squares, that would be great. Okay, so that's just the legs. Take your hands. Here's that beach ball again. You see how I got my shoulders kind of high? Let the shoulders drop with your elbows. So we're doing this to the side because eventually we'll turn, okay? So I can show it in a couple different directions. Take this ball and spin it. And then push your hands, see how they're opposite of each other? Another yin-yang concept, they're opposite, reach out. All right? So say we were gonna do the same thing facing forward, because some of you are like, where am I going? I'm looking over that way. So say I was going to turn my foot, there's my 45 degrees, there's my empty stance, here's my nose and navel, step with your heel. So we're in the same exact spot we were just a moment ago facing this way. Now we're facing forward. So here's this ball. You kind of spin it, squish it, and then I reach. So this right hand is level with my nose. My other hand is level with like my throat, or maybe my heart. And then we're ready to go again. Take your hands and splash, like you're in the kitchen sink and you're splashing the water. Shift your weight back, roll back. So it's all like, that's extra. Scratching my nose, my cheek here. So that's extra credit. So it's all about this ball shape, which again goes back to the yin-yang shape of kind of like a ball or two fish kind of circling each other. So if I was here, I got the ball, I spin it, I push it away. Before I can get too far away, I roll it back. And then I find my pulse. I find my pulse on the left side of my body. So see how my shoulders gently twist with my spine? And then I untwist. And now my hand is supporting my wrist. All right? So this is 3 of the exercises on the sheet right here. I got detailed instructions for those of you who want to go home and study and practice it afterwards. I don't expect you to remember anything with this today other than, yeah, we tried something. But if you can remember the details, wonderful. So let's do this again. I'm going to turn my foot. There's my empty stance. There's my feet about 1 tile apart, holding the ball. So I got my feet in the right spot. I got my waist in the right spot. Again, the hands are the least worrisome. If I do something wrong, it's not going to hurt my knees or my back. Squish the ball and push it away. Okay, so now I'm going to splash and I move my hips. That's going to help roll the ball. And then I twist a little bit over here. The spine is twisted, my hands are crossed. I shift back, my arms do this. So I'm going to show the next couple things, but we're not going to do it much. It's going to be like this, like I'm splashing again, and I pull, and I push. So all of this is what our legs do. So this is that relationship I was talking about having with your feet. Your feet. If someone like stubbed their toe right now, you would want to sit down, oh, my foot hurts, I don't want to do this. That's why it's important to get our feet where we do this, toes, heel. It's exercises for your toes and your ankles and your calves, the foundation of our steps. When your feet hurt, you don't want to walk. You don't want to exercise. So again, you can grab a seat. You know, some of you start getting a little tired, like, come on, let's go, Jim, let's do some more stuff, get my legs moving, I'm getting tired. So that was probably going to be the extent of the exercises that I wanted to do, just to get your feet wet a little bit as to what Tai Chi is. It's physical movement, it's thinking about exactly where your body is positioned so that you have an anchor for your thoughts and you're not thinking about all the other stuff going in and around, the guy in the pool with the shark skin suit. You know, you're putting your mind where you're at. And then the third component is your awareness or philosophy or, again, something that kind of anchor you to what we're doing. Are we good? So these are the sheets. Can you help me? And I'll pass out some of these too. So this is a sheet of benefits. And then this is some of those exercises in detail. So the one I'd like you to pass out would be these two. And then we'll just leave the other ones if anybody wants to grab them for later. See, I don't want to assume that everybody loves this. You good? Yeah, you grabbed them in the earlier part.
I picked them all up earlier.
Thank you so much. You know, and if you don't want them, you look at them and you just put them back on the table when we finish up. So we got to move on here. So my first goal I have accomplished. I've introduced you to Tai Chi. Qigong, Qi is your energy, your vital energy or your breath. Gong is movement or work, more work. So when you hear somebody talk about Kung Fu, It's like, oh, right away you think of, David Carradine doing the show or whatever, right? But the words that translate, it actually translates to breath work. So all that stuff we just did is breath work. You sitting in a chair right now, that's actually breath work too, but usually it's not that difficult to just sit, right? Sit and breathe. But what we did, it's a little bit more. You gotta breathe deep, you gotta move, you gotta stand, all that stuff. So Qigong, and then Tai Chi is the next set up. Qigong, breathing work. Tai Chi is exercises and sets that are kind of linked together. And I could probably go into a lot more detail, but we gotta move along. So we turn our cell phones off. We're wonderful with that, no problems. What's the next thing? This is what we just did. Everybody's got the little sheet in front of them, hopefully. Shows you the exercises, and it gives you the correspondence, philosophically with the 5 elements. Traditional Chinese medicine is based upon the 5 elements. Your body type, if you're tall and thin, if your face is round or long, if you run a little bit hot or cold, like when you sleep or during the day, those are all different aspects of those 5 elements. Fire type, that's somebody that runs hot, a little bit hot-headed perhaps, that's the personality. So you have physical traits, you have mental traits. Somebody that's wood, they're a little bit flexible. They can move a little like the tree, right? Wood, it's not solid like metal would be. Metal is kind of like, there's not a lot of room for negotiation or compromise. Metal is kind of direct, splitting, cutting through. So again, these are just all different philosophical concepts that can take Tai Chi to a different level beyond just, I like practicing it because my balance gets better. You have different things that you can kind of anchor upon with your thoughts. So I talked about this a little bit, the ball of your foot and your heel. It's actually 2 different triangles. And if you can move in and out of those triangles, you have a better chance of having not just stability because of your feet being more flexible or strong, mobile, you also have a better chance of having circulation down to your toes. And just like that tree, keep using the example of the tree, the heart has the most difficulty getting the blood to the fingertips and to the toes. And you'll see on a tree that doesn't get water, the leaves will shrivel up and fall off the tree before the whole tree falls over the roots. So when we do the exercise, you try to move your fingers. We did a little bit with the hands, not a lot of detail with what we just did, but the feet. You're trying to get that circulation to your toes and feet. Top of your head too. It makes sense. Your heart has a hard time getting the blood all the way to the top of your head. It's the farthest point. So try and move between the big toe, the little toe, the ball of your foot, and then your heel. And to some extent, you do it with every step you take, but when you're thinking about it more deliberately, you can get more benefits from it. So again, this is just more philosophy as far as the 8 different exercises. We did 3 of them, and each one of them can mean something different. So this is expanding, which is somewhat like heaven. Heaven is out there somewhere expanding. Earth, you're solid, you're grounded. This is a mountain, and then a canyon and water. They flow together, mountain, canyon, water. Wood is the tree branch. Push is fire or metal. And then there's splitting, which is thunder. So for me, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. It makes sense. It's just the way it is. But it's kind of cool in that, again, in the pool, what are you thinking about when you're swimming? Not drowning, right? You want to breathe the right way. Don't breathe in when you're underwater. And beyond that, you're trying to get to the other side. I'm oversimplifying it, but I think you get the point. If you're on a treadmill, you're putting one foot in front of the other. You're trying not to fall, trying to maintain your balance while you get your heart rate up. Tai Chi, Qigong, and yoga to some extent, you're trying all these different levels of engagement. So everybody got the list of benefits. So this gets you into why it's good for your digestion, why it's good for your lungs, why it's good for your heart, why it's good, not just for your balance, but for your bones. You all have the sheet, you can read through it. Don't need to beat a dead horse with all that. This is just kind of showing you the matrix of how all these things come together again. Because not everybody practices these exercises for the same reasons. Some people really like the balance. Some people really like the emotional connection of doing something with your body. And then other people just like being in the room with other people that are doing it. So, this is just a bit of a matrix of all that. And on the way out, if you're still interested in more, if you're like, yeah, I really want to learn more about this, there's a sheet here. These have about 4 or 5 pages and even has some of the exercises in the sets. A little bit small print, but you'll be fine with it. So why do I gravitate towards Tai Chi and Qigong, Pilates, yoga? All of them are good. Weight training is good. Swimming is good. They're all good. The one you do the most, that you're going to do consistently, that's the best for you. Once you're doing something on a regular basis, then you can start to define a little bit more what that best is, perhaps. So with Tai Chi and yoga, you very much try to move within 3 planes of movement. Most of the joints in our body, maybe not most of them, quite a few of them though, you're moving in, your shoulder can move in 3 planes. Your jaw, up and down, a little bit side to side. We don't really want our jaw moving in 3 planes, but some people do. You get the idea. The more your body can move in the different planes, it's better for your health. You can move more of the joints in those 3 different planes, chances are you're going to have a healthier physical being. All right, here's where I love to be. This is me. I'm standing perfectly balanced. No, I have a weak knee. And my weak knee, if I don't take care of it, makes my hips shift slightly. And the hips, then the shoulders, and then the neck. Next thing I have headaches if I'm not taking care of my balance in my knees. I don't know if any of you all have the same issue, referred pain. One part of your body is injured, other parts start to, get affected by it. Oh, move it or lose it. That's how it is, Everybody knows some of these things. The discipline of getting out of the chair, trying something new, or even staying consistent with something that isn't new, it does take effort. So this was the other thing that I really wanted to touch upon, the Harvard grant study that started in 1938. Has anybody heard of this? Pretty cool. They started this study at Harvard, obviously, right? And it was with young men who were about to go off to war. 1938. I don't know exactly when the U.S. got involved. That's the history of getting involved in World War II. So they started this study to see what people thought, young men, as far as what a successful life is. Now, how much do you know when you're 18 and you're headed off to Germany to go fight? So they tracked them. And a lot of these people, when they came back, they went back to school. Went back to Harvard or wherever, school. And then others went back into the workforce, or they got married, or they did different things. So it wasn't just one particular demographic. And they've been tracking them for almost 90 years now. 1938, we're coming on 28, that would be 90 years, right? So it wasn't until after they came back, and I think into the 50s, that they introduced women into the program too, and started collecting that data. So what they found over those individuals, and they interviewed them like when they got into their 70s and 80s, like, what do you consider to be success? And they said having a way to manage their emotions. And that might have been doing this type of stuff, going out and being active with activities and being around other people, whatever it is. Engaging a management system that they could fall back on, that wasn't necessarily drugs, drinking, alcohol, those type of things. Different non-drug type of actions. The social interactions was a very big part of it, having a community, friends, neighbors, family, church, a purpose, something that connected you to other people, a sense of purpose and meaning. That's the next thing, whatever that may be. So it's very interesting that I think it's fantastic that they were able to have this study go on, and they kept handing it off like the next professor, because some of them, they got older and they passed away too with it. So now there's somebody that's in there and he's, 3rd generation into it, and it's like, oh, he's lived long enough to kind of see this too. So what I was talking about the last couple talks, that recipe, you gotta, yeah, you don't know it until a certain amount of time goes by, if your recipe was correct or not, right? So hopefully, yes. If not, there's some time to correct it. Don't wait, We never know when the next day is, that we're not able to correct it. So this is that topic I had talked about last time too, the ikigai, finding something you're good at, you love doing it, with a passion, the world needs it, and then if you can get paid for it, that's great, but not necessarily. So this comes back to this concept right here. A light bulb moment, flash bulb moment, lollipop moment. Anybody heard of these terms before? They're kind of self-explanatory when you just look at the word, right? So a light bulb moment is maybe something, let's draw from my class and say, once you saw this thing and I talked about it a little bit, a little bulb goes off in your head and goes, oh, that's what that traditional Chinese medicine stuff is with acupuncture or herbs. You know, it's like, oh, I get it. That's what a light bulb moment is. And it's usually for learning, like a learning epiphany of some sort. Like the guy I keep talking about the guy in the pool. Like, oh, it's not a shark, it's a wetsuit to help keep him warm. You know, a little light bulb goes off. So that's more about learning. And we have them probably thousands of times throughout our life that a little light bulb goes off when we realize something. A flash bulb moment is nice. It could be, but not always. We remember when the astronauts landed on the moon. That was like, oh, that's like inspiring. It's happened. It's first. We all probably know where we were at when that happened. I was in my, I think it was second grade, and they brought in the television screen on this big cart. We looked up, and it was a 19-inch screen. It was probably about so big. And I remember that. But we also remember when 9/11 happened, where you were at, what you were doing, what happened in the days to follow. Challenger. I remember when the Challenger exploded. So oftentimes they're negative activities, traumatic, but there are positive ones in there too. So just how memories are burned into our thought process. A lollipop moment is when, you know, it's kind of sweet, sugary, light. When somebody may say something or do something, it goes back to this guy who was a professor and he saw someone in his class who was very nervous. He handed out lollipops. And it just kind of floored the young woman who was nervous about being there, and it broke the ice a little bit. It's like, oh, that was really nice of him. And because of that, she ended up meeting her husband, her future husband. So she connected that memory back to the teacher that did something kind of sweet. He wasn't thinking about it. He just, you know, it's just doing it. So maybe when you come to my class here, you get a little light bulb moment of some of these, you know, intellectual type things or philosophical concepts. But if you can walk away with it with a lollipop, kind of like I might have just said, you know, oh, you can do it. It might be something that simple. That, you know, keep trying, you'll get better at it. Something that simple can change a ripple effect across somebody's life. So I get together with friends from high school. I get together with friends from martial arts. I get together with people that used to be my teachers, people I used to teach, all different aspects, right? And sometimes it's just for a moment. You make contact with somebody. Or it's an hour, we're here for an hour, a day, maybe it's a year or two that you're in a friendship, and then it changes. Those are called micro meetings, where it might just be for a short time you engage with somebody, and that's all it takes for that ripple effect to take you in a different direction. When we were in Germany, my wife and me a couple weeks ago, the guide was really an intellectual, but he was very compassionate about everybody in the group, making sure they knew where they're at, and if they're comfortable, if their rooms were nice and stuff. And at the end of it, he felt more like a friend than a guide. So at the end, we were at the dinner table, you know, 25 of us or 28 or whatever, and a couple people got up and said, hey, thank you for being such a great guide and stuff. And I saw that as my opportunity to do the speech that I give at these events. And I said, I gotta say that we've only met a couple days ago, we only talked for a short amount of time, but some of the things you shared with me going through Germany and Austria were things that will change my thinking. For one, the Germans really love Americans. Even though they don't like some things we do and maybe our politics and things like that, they're very grateful for us liberating Germany after, you know, Hitler was in power. And I didn't realize the depth of that until I was standing there talking to Germans that expressed that. So it was like, boom, light bulb. Oh, but it's also a lollipop. Yes. And there's other places that are like that too, you know, other cultures. But, you know, I had a lot of light bulb moments, but I had a couple lollipop moments too, because just the people don't necessarily try to give you that lesson, but you walk away with it. So hopefully some of this stuff, you know, it sticks with you. You know, maybe you start a Tai Chi class start going to a Tai Chi class, or ask for me to come and teach a Tai Chi class or something. You know, things that can spawn from it. So now, those were the two things I wanted to go over again. Physical exercises that we did, and talking a little bit about the meaning and purpose. There's another sheet here too, if you want to take it on the way out, about why it's good to try not to be lonely, and how loneliness is a big depression factor for people. So whether you're coming to classes like this, or going to the gym, or meeting up to go lunch, play chess, checkers, social interactions, so you're not lonely, is a really big thing about staying healthy. And that goes back to the Grant study. They found, you know, some emotional management of some sort. Lack of sunlight. This is in the news pretty regularly these days. You know, oh, you're going out, you're in Florida, put on sunscreen, put on so much of it that now you stand the risk of getting not skin cancer from the sun, but skin cancer from all the chemicals that are in some of the sunscreens. So whichever side of the fence that you're on with it, you know, do the research on it and find what works for you. Why so? Yes. That's why I moved to Florida.
That's why and I can even just sit in my chair, look out the window, even like 100 degrees outside, and say, you know what, the sky is beautiful.
Yes.
The flowers are beautiful, and it just makes your mood up.
It definitely does. So that's your emotional management once again. You know, looking out the window and seeing the grace and the beauty of the colors, you know, God's creation, however you want to interpret that. I did purposely move away from Chicago because of that exact reason. It's a seasonal affective disorder. Sad. You're sad because of the seasons. And you've probably heard there's studies, and they've done this in different prisons across the country. They put paint that's different colors in different parts of the prisons, and that will affect the prisoner's emotional status. So if they go with pink, the people might be a little goofy at first, like, I got pink walls, but they notice that there's less violence. Light blue, like baby blue, less violence. You go with red walls, black walls, the prisoners are more violent. So colors has something to do with it, but the environment has a lot to do with it too. I know every day I can walk outside and see the sun, or be in the sun, or be in nature. So back what you're saying, a couple minutes a day, right? So we've tried, this one came up really small. Vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin. It's also the cancer vitamin if you're staying in the sun between 11 and 4 o'clock every day. We know this living in Florida. We've tried so hard for some people to get out of the sun that now all these other things are out of whack. Osteopenia, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, osteomalacia. You guys probably heard these things long before I did. Rickets, muscle aches and weaknesses. So you have all of these issues now because people are staying inside so much. So the solution, another poor graphic, I'm sorry, it just highlights what the different side effects are as far as abnormalities. You got to get out in the sun early in the day, before 11 o'clock, and like after 6 or 7. We got a couple more weeks that we can do that. It all has to do with where the latitudes are. Different parts of the world, even though they're warm and sunny in that, people are staying out of the sun more so. You look at the United States, different times of the year, it changes. In Florida, we're lucky we can have sunlight almost every day, all year round. Up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, not so much. So here's a scary statistic. 80% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. So some people will call it flu season that's coming up. The weather's changing, it's that time of the year, people are getting sick more. Other people call it lack of sun season, because people aren't in the sun as much. So again, do the research. Maybe you need to change your diet a little bit. You gotta get out more. Supplements is the least, like you don't wanna have to take supplements if you can get it in other ways, but that's better than not getting it at all. So the angle of the sun has a lot to do with how the body, angle of the sun, where do we go here? the angle during the day, it's coming straight down, so that's the most harsh. In the morning at night, it's coming at an angle. There's more atmosphere that the rays have to go through. That shields it, so the rays aren't as strong. That's what my small little graphic is there. This is how vitamin D affects your whole body, gets into the bones, helps with digestion, immunity. Again, these are all just kind of showing you the pluses and minuses of it. Does anybody here not know about vitamin D not being good to have vitamin D in your diet? Is that something new? I learned that when I was like in 5th grade. Drink milk. Drink a lot. Milk make your bones strong. So here's our different degrees. Different parts of the world have more or less harsh sunlight. I wish these came through a little bit bigger. That just shows us our graph of what times are the best and worst to be out in the sun. What can you do? Adjust your diet. Supplements, vitamin D, calcium, have more protein. Stay away from too much sodium, caffeine, and alcohol. That goes with just about everything. Any illness or ailment that you have probably has to do with how much salt you're taking in, how much coffee you drink, how much alcohol you drink, and then whatever your diet is. This shouldn't be all too news to you folks. You get vitamin D from sunlight, smaller degree from cheese, milk. They fortify it with it. It's not in there naturally with a great amount. Eggs, salmon, yogurt, all things that we like to eat probably on a regular basis. Yeah. If you don't have enough vitamin D, your body can't process the calcium. Stress affects bones. So this is stress affects bones. There's 2 types of stress. There's mental stress, which can affect the chemistry of your body, which can affect your bones and make them weaker. And then it's actually called stress, EU stress, and that's like going to the gym and putting tension on the bones and muscles. That's the good kind of stress that you want to have, stress that you choose to have. So the stress we don't like gives us cortisol, which again causes the organs to not function as well. Diet can affect bones, activity affects the bones. So if you do a lot of rock climbing, tennis, bicycling, basketball, that's going to affect the bones in a positive and negative way. It's putting some stress on the bones so they get stronger and more dense, but if you fall over and you're twisting your ankle and your knee, now you're probably going to have more bone issues because you're not going to be as active. So again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. If you're in the audience in the room right now, you probably already know about osteoporosis and your doctors address this with you. If not, it might be a good thing to look into. So this goes into a little bit of detail on how stress affects the whole body. It comes in through your eyes. Oh my gosh, I don't like your shirt. It says Pittsburgh Steelers on it. Oh my gosh, So yeah, so the bright color lifts me up. It lifts me up until I focus on the Steelers, right? At least you're not an Eagles fan, right? The reason I bring up Eagles is it's a family joke that they hurt people. They get violent with the opposing team. They throw stuff at them.
Well, if you're from Pittsburgh, it's for us. I just enjoy sport.
So the reason I bring up the sport, it just kind of gives me a segue to things that you take in, just like you take food in. You got to watch what food you digest and put in your body. You have to watch what you take in your eyes. Because from your eyes, you get all these different chemical reactions that happen. If you're angry from watching the news, it eventually is going to affect your heart and your liver. If you have a lot of grief, a lot of your friends have passed away, family members, that does start to affect your lungs because you breathe more shallow when you're depressed. You do the sigh, and that turns to be a very shallow breath over time. So all of your thoughts can directly affect, your liver, your blood pressure, your heart rate, your digestion. I don't know if you've ever done like a class like this or discussion, you're a little nervous going into it, your stomach knots up, and you're like, oh, can't eat anything. No, I don't want any of that stuff because you're kind of like worried a little bit. You have anxiety. So again, thoughts can affect your stress level. this again just kind of goes through this. You have all the different senses. Most people say you have 5 senses, but there's probably up to about 12 of them. You know, you got the 5 normal ones that everybody knows, you know, touch, taste, smell, eyes, hearing, and then you got the unusual ones of tactile. You know, it's, you know, like you can feel something feels rough compared to smooth. Young children oftentimes don't like certain foods because of the texture. So that's a different sense. Sense of warmth or thermo. Sense of knowing your space, how close people are to you when you're at Disney World, people bumping into you, it's like, oh. So everybody's got these other senses, but we don't necessarily address them as much. But they all come into our body, either from our work, our career, our family, our friends, some way or another, all these senses come in and affect our chemistry. So there's this guy, his name is George Miller. I think it was in 1956, Harvard guy. A lot of these smart people come from Harvard. Just saying, you know. I've actually been, I went to Harvard. I did go to Harvard. My wife, my daughter, and me were visiting our son who was at a rowing event, and they were, you know, right there. So we walked over, yeah, we walked over, and then I put up a picture on my Facebook page, said that, you know, I went to Harvard. So, and we ate lunch at one of the local restaurants there or whatever. So I visited Harvard. I even went up to the law school, the School of Law, and you can't get in because, you know, it's an old building. It's probably, you know, 100 years old, 200 years old, I don't know how old, and now they got the card reader on it. So you got history there. You got the old and the new technology with the card reader. So this George Miller guy, very smart, he was, I guess, like a mathematician on some level, and he was figuring out how many thoughts we can juggle in our head at a time. And, you know, like when you're driving, you got the brake, the steering, the window, the mirrors, and then the radio. And now we add the phone to it, and that's why so many people are getting in car accidents, because we reached the limit of the 5 tasks that we can do. So it's actually, it's the magic, what do they call it, 7. The magic number 7 activities and thoughts, but it could be plus or minus. Some people can only juggle 5, some people can go up to 9 at one time. And it changes. You know, it's not absolute with every, you know, activity throughout the day. So throughout the course of our day, we have about 150 different thoughts. I keep thinking about the stock market. I keep thinking about what I'm making for dinner. I'm thinking I need to be here. I'm thinking that, what's the sports going on this weekend? My son will be home. We watch some sports together. So we're constantly going through 150. And that's a special number too. Every number has a special attachment to it. If you're in the numerology, you know, here's the 1, or there's 2, 3, you got the Trinity, you got 4, you got the box, you got 5, the pentagon, the 5 element. You can attach a number to whatever, right? 150 is a special number. That's how many relationships that we have that you can manage at one time. So if you look through your, you know, list of people that you're friends with that you send Christmas cards or whatever, you might have, you know, up to 150 different people that you can manage. Beyond that, it's just like people that pass or their acquaintances, you know, people that aren't really in your network so much. So you got 150 thoughts, you got 150 friends. 150 is just a common number that they use for attachment to things. Yes?
Property may be challenged of our professor, but the treasury fund, I don't buy the person's back. Isn't it broke? You're really not thinking about new treasury fund. It's big treasury. You're not thinking, I gotta put the foot down.
Some of it does turn to be muscle memory, I believe.
Yeah, so I think the phone is a distraction, not so much.
And it's not necessarily another thought process, you think? You know, that would be a whole nother 3-week course that we could talk about.
We have the gentleman that's here in the afternoon, he talks about the amazing brain class after this.
Yeah?
It's quite interesting. You two should sit down and have a
Yeah,
conversation.
definitely.
Actually, I'd want to be a spectator.
A lot of these topics, they are open for discussion. Again, there's no black and white.
Very good. You're making me think.
Yeah, well, that's the light bulb or the lollipop, right? Hopefully. But yeah, there might not be an exact, you know, example that'll fulfill that. But if I was to give you 5 things like we did when we were standing there, and then I keep adding on another one, there does come a point where in your thought, you're talking to yourself, the inner dialogue, and you go, oh, okay, I've reached my limit. You know, it was okay with doing the feet, I could do the arms, and I'm breathing, and now I tell you, you know, reach your head up and pull your tailbone down. It's like, oh, that takes a little more thought. I'm done. Because
If that 5, I do it over a sufficient amount of time, it becomes rote. Then I can add the 2.
yes,
That's what I'm thinking, without a big problem.
yeah. I wouldn't disagree. So if you're doing some other, like when I'm doing this, that probably does come down to that where it is just me, you know, it's like ingrained. And I can add.
But you're talking to us, you're concentrating on telling us, and you're doing this.
Yeah, so those 5 things might not, so that's where you get into chunking. Chunking is where you take like phone numbers, and I can remember phone numbers from when I was a kid, but I can't remember my son's phone number now because he just hit auto dial. But you know, 847 was the area code, 894-0853. That's my phone number when I was a kid. It's my mom's phone number still. It's chunks, and that's why, from what I understand, they designed the phone system, the phone numbers like that into the hyphen so that you can remember things better. That's the 5 exercises we just did there. Why didn't I show you 8 of them right off the bat, or 24 of them, or 108? Those are the sequences, because you start with 5, so then your brain kind of adjusts to it. And hopefully it gets to be like I did with muscle memory with it. But the chunking is how websites are addressed now. If I go to pull up on Windows here, the menus, most of the menus will not have more than 5 options because it's too confusing for people to take in that information. Or so the psychologists and the neurologists, that's what they've figured out. So most websites are designed, you go across the top, no more than 5 menus across. You do the pull downs, not more than 5 on the way down. But there's people that don't know this and they just design websites for whatever. And you go on there and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many options. Yeah. Yes.
It's got to be in the first line, forget it. It's going to be simple, few words, that's it.
Well, I hope I covered the important things in the first class because we're 3 into it. I know, I'm just joking with it.
You're reading something like you pull it up on the screen, and it's like, I get the gist, here's the first line of this, here's the first line of that.
So human behavior is psychology, right? The study of behavior. And then you get into neurology, it's how the brain works. I think psychology and neurology go really close together. And that's kind of, again, this is for discussion. You know, it's not black and white of you having only so many thoughts, you taking in this information, and your body and your brain can only process so many thoughts at a time. And if we have something that you can kind of anchor upon a couple times a day to kind of break that, you know, making a meal, that might break you from the stress of all this other stuff. You can do this Tai Chi stuff and this breathing, it gives you a break. It gives you something to break from all those other, you know, random thoughts that are going through your head. So that's the kind of like the neurology of it. Give your break a fast, breakfast. That's for your body. You know, that's why that word came about. You didn't eat throughout the whole night. Morning comes, you're breaking the fast. Well, there's a mental fast too. Take your brain away from things that bother you a couple times a day. Okay, so this is the traditional Chinese medicine concept of the 5 elements and how each one of them affect the organs. I already touched upon that a little bit. If you have a lot of anger, it will affect your heart and liver. If you have worry, anxiety, that's your stomach. Fear, your bladder. Sometimes animals. You come across an animal that's frightened, you know, a dog you met for the first time and it's afraid of you, they might urinate, they lose control of their bladder. Happens with humans also. People that are in fear of their life will lose control of their bladder. So that's kind of the extreme, but this affects us on a daily basis all throughout the day.
Whenever that gentleman comes, 95% of the time, it's discussed from the point of view of negative.
Yes.
Stress is that this is going to happen.
The other side is there. Oh, did I just shut it off? The other side is there. So on the positive side, thoughts of kindness and generosity will affect your liver. Gentleness, calmness, silence, those, here's the positive and there's the negative. So they do have the other side of it. Unfortunately, I'm a victim of it too. Our attention goes towards the negative. What do you watch on the news? 25 minutes of the bad stuff. The last 5 minutes is the good story. So oftentimes when I talk about this, it'll be like if you don't exercise, if you don't manage your thoughts, these are the side effects that'll come from it. But it's just as much on the other side of it that I should put more weight on the positive side of it too. So you're correct. So we keep going here. So here's how the breathing kind of affects everything. If you're breathing, and I talked about last couple times about getting to slow down the breath so that the chemistry changes. When your breathing is too shallow or too fast, you get somewhat of a tunnel vision and just like, I'm racing, I gotta just focus on what's in front of me. That affects your emotions. Your emotions are what affect your chemistry. And the chemistry affects all the organs throughout the body. I've already hit upon this a couple times, I think. So solutions, what do you folks need to do? So this is a little bit more on the positive side, I think. Find out what your level of fitness is in your quality of your health, and then adjust your exercise routine towards that. It's like, okay, my knees aren't that good. Me personally, my knees aren't that good, right? So I shouldn't be doing basketball and tennis. It's really not the good activity for it. I'd like to, but it's really not the best. So I got to give that up a little bit and find something that works for me. Swimming's really good for me. Treadmill's really good for me. Obviously, this Tai Chi and Qigong stuff I'm talking about is really good for me. So find what you like based upon what you can do. Don't just, see the guy doing the thing over there and go, I got to do that to get in good shape. Running is a good example of it. I got to just get running, go out there and run. And then people pound the pavement, literally, and then they have knee problems or back problems from running. And it's like, geez, I was really trying to do the right thing, exercise. You just found the wrong exercise. Maybe walking is better for you than running is.
First class, we talked about rage.
Uh-huh.
Positive, breathe.
Yep.
No side effects. Like somebody meant. So
Yep.
if I just get that out,
Anything else beyond that is extra. You're getting extra credit. So yeah, breathe deep, try to walk. The minimal amount of those two things, if you adjust those, your life will change. So all the extra stuff, then you can get more balance and coordination, and all the other things that go with it. Engage your muscles. Pretty much all exercise engages your muscles. Improve balance. Not every exercise method will help your balance. If you do mostly swimming in a pool, that will not affect your balance in a positive way because your body is so buoyant. If you fall over in a pool, it doesn't make a difference. So some exercise methods are better for balance. Again, yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates. Just isometric exercise, like basic calisthenics are really good for working on balance too, but a lot of those actually go back to the other systems. It's like, oh, you learned that thing. That's not kind of a cool new exercise. Where'd you learn that? Oh, it's a yoga exercise from 3,000 years ago. So, back rehabilitation. I often encounter people that are gonna have back surgery. It's like, oh, try not to have back surgery if you don't have to. If your body can heal within a month or so and the inflammation goes down and you're not in as much pain, you can do other kinds of exercises, some of the stuff that I do. Or you have the surgery and then a couple weeks afterwards, they're gonna have you doing rehab, which will be the same exercises that you would have done if you didn't have the surgery. So it comes full circle. So, yeah.
It's like, oh, this was my physical therapy that I learned, and so I
I've done it with friends or family or other people that I work with for back and knee issues, specifically bad back injury of some sort and then knees. And it's like, well, you can do the exercises now and put in the work, or do it afterwards and then be doing the same thing. It's like, oh. okay, then they figure it out and they have the surgery and then they come back to me and tell me I was right. So it does happen. So, get more vitamin D, calcium, reduce your stress. These are all the things that we all know about. So what's the difference between us all knowing this and actually doing it and implementing it? Self-discipline. If your desire is strong enough, what's that? Don't wait. Yeah. If your desire is strong enough, you will have the self-discipline. So, I don't have any grandkids yet. I'd like to see them. My son's not even married yet. My daughter, she's still finishing her degree, so it's not even on her horizon for right now. But I'd like to see some grandkids. So that means I got to stay healthy long enough that I can not just see them, but engage with them. My father was only alive for about 2 years after my son was born, and they were still up in Chicago, my mom and dad, so he didn't get to see my son too much. But the desire was there that he wanted to see him, but it just didn't work out. My father's health was pretty poor. So find a desire that will give you the self-discipline to do these things, to eat better, to exercise more regularly, have less stress, hang out with people you like. I've already touched upon this. Some of these slides, I'm in the conversation and it comes up, so it's not like I want to keep rehashing the same stuff. It's just, I might have addressed it already. Lifestyle adjustments, ergonomic solutions, mental wellness strategies, it's all the same stuff. So I talked a little bit about this, stress, self-induced trauma. So if I smack my head on the door or something over here on the way out, I hit, oh gosh, that hurts. That's not planned. That's trauma that comes about. If I'm doing exercise and I'm making my body sore, that's more self-induced. When you put stress, the same way, learning something new as opposed to staying in your comfort zone, that's the difference between stress of, oh my gosh, I gotta learn this, you gave me this whole thing, I gotta learn this, or, oh, I wanna learn something new. It's a different perspective on how your brain's gonna bring it in. Strategic, where'd it go? Hormetic trauma or strategic trauma is where you're the one that's in control of it. And here's a whole list of different things that you can do for exercise ideas. As far as bone strength, you want to be able to put the muscles under some amount of tension. If your muscles don't have tension, the bones don't get strong. Muscles and bones go together. You got to engage your muscles to engage the bones. So dancing, elastic bands, talk about elastic bands, they're great. Qigong and Qigong, that's what we did a little bit. Pilates was invented by a German doctor who was in a British camp, prisoner, during World War II, I believe. And he started working with the people, and they kind of kept him away from the patients a little bit because he was a prisoner. And he said, hey, I can do stuff. I have this knowledge from yoga and some martial arts, and I can help people. So he started incorporating them into the room where people were stuck, and if they were like in the traction, in the bed, and they couldn't get up, and they had the devices with that, he was showing them things he could do with the bed frame and the pulleys and that, and that's where Pilates came about. So I can go through all these, but again, I think most of you guys, know a lot of this already. The reason I'm kind of moving through this is because we're in the last couple minutes, and I just wanted to answer questions or have other discussion beyond just looking at the screen. So does anybody have any other questions, comments, complaints? I know you're going to do that survey and you're going to give me all 5-star rating, but there's so much content. I think I scratched just the surface between the 3 classes. You saw I had the slides and I had sessions like 1, 2, and 3, and I added 0. I have probably another 100 or so slides just talking about this type of stuff. Yes. There's this sheet right here. On the way out, grab it if you don't have it. Gives you a little bit of my background again to know where I came from. I'd like to. I think you folks have to fill out the survey to give me some good marks with it. On the back, I got some of my information, contact information. And I'm not supposed to sell anything, right? On here, I do have a website and a blog and on YouTube. All those are there. And I offer a fair amount of my stuff free. This for me is free. You folks paid, but I do this free because, in one way you could look at it, it's networking. It could build up business and accounts and things like that. But again, this is where I get my purpose from, doing these kind of things. I'm sorry? Yeah, you know, it's better to have somebody that's optimistic about these type of things than don't want to stand all the negative stuff, right? But you know, you got to have a healthy mix of both of them. But I do so these won't go on YouTube until December, so that, you know, it has time that goes by and you folks don't feel like I cheated you for, you know, I could have just watched it on YouTube. There's a different energy from watching it on YouTube, right? From, yeah, definitely.
How many people do you need for it to be worthwhile?
It would be nice if there'd be like about 10 people or so. Otherwise, then I got to go just for a flat fee. You know, how much does it cost for my time to come out? Because it'd probably be like a 3-hour event each time. You know, an hour for me to drive here, an hour class, hour to drive back. So, you know, this is all stuff. Put it in a survey and see what the powers that be would like to do. I don't know if it has to be with Lifelong. It could be maybe just with the celebration community. So then it's a different thing. Yeah, you know, I'd love to come back. If there's people that are interested and they have the energy and the enthusiasm, you know, I drive, I do this. Well, I'll keep doing it as long as I can because it keeps me engaged and healthy doing the classes too. So on YouTube, check it out. This won't be on there till December, but some of the past ones I did in Winter Park are up there. There's almost 300 videos of classes, Tai Chi like we did, lectures, me talking at some of the other facilities, a couple hospital talks, things like that. And then there's a blog, and I put 2 articles on my blog every week. And it might be martial arts stuff, history of martial arts, philosophy. A lot of it's psychology. You know, I learned, okay, I didn't get a psychology degree, but I took a slew of psychology classes for my degree. Because I really gravitated towards it because it kind of filled in so many blanks of what I talk about. In neurology, it's like, it's all connected. So my blog, it's often posts and I get all the references and that you can see where it all comes from. So if I put any kind of medical stuff on there, look up the sources, you know. I talk about Buddhism, Taoism, diet, anything that's relative to health and wellness. So 2 a week, and I got probably 300-400 posts are up there. When I get enough of them, I make a book out of them, and then I put them on Amazon. So I got about 35 books on Amazon right now. It's quite a few. A lot of it is this type of stuff, and then a lot of it's on martial arts, Qigong, symbolism, Carl Jung. I studied Carl Jung a bit, and Carl Jung's all over the place here. He studied Buddhism and Taoism to some extent. It wasn't the other way around. You know, people hear about Carl Jung. It's like, oh, I'm going to study Carl Jung. And it's like, oh, this is so cool. He's a modern, you know, psychologist. It's talking about ancient concepts. It's like, yeah, he's stealing from the ancients. So any other questions at all? You know, you can always stay after a minute or two, I think, and ask questions too. But I think we got to wrap up. I'm at 11:44. So last couple of times I didn't watch the clock as much and I ran over a little bit. So I was trying to be careful not to do that today. So I hope you all learned something. I hope I gave you a couple light bulb moments of things to think about. If not, you know, hopefully a lollipop here and there. Just something, maybe makes you go look up something on the internet, or you know, maybe there's a Tai Chi class somewhere by and you do happen to step in and try it. You know, if you want to invite me back with, you know, you got to do it through that survey so I get some input on what you guys would like to do. So we could talk about many other topics. I just kind of just scratching the surface really with this today. Okay, so be well, be safe. Thanks for coming out. So you can clap for yourself. You guys all made it through.